Namaste. We will now commence the next narration from the series Heart to Heart Volume 1 Walking with the Master, delivered on August 4th, 1987, Copenhagen, Denmark. Just a few last thoughts before I leave. I don't know whether the way gets more difficult. It's like climbing a mountain. In the beginning, it's very easy, almost child's play. There is still a lot of trees, grass, people around, animals, and the slope is very gentle. But if you are really trying to the high ranges and the highest ranges and to reach the peak, of course, you know, very soon there is hardly a way. You have to find it. That is why mountaineers have guides, whether in Switzerland or in Himalayas or in Andes. Nobody would imagine or be foolish enough to try to climb without a guide in front of him, because the guide knows the way. Though there is no visible way, you look and look and look, and there is no way you see. And then amazingly, this guide, he ties himself to you, risking being pulled down by you too. His life is in your hands, because if there is a crazy fellow climbing behind who loses confidence, or who does not trust the guide at a particular moment, he may panic, and if he falls, the guide has to fall with him. There is no other way, you see. So for all these high mountains, they have base camps where people are trained for a few days, sometimes for few weeks. They have to acclimatize themselves first to the atmosphere up there. Very rare, not so much oxygen. You have to learn to climb literally with your toes, toe holds, finger holds, pitons. I mean the whole thing, you see. And then the best advice. I was once talking to one of our friends in India. Some of you know him, Brigadier Gansing. He now heads an adventure club for youth. He feels that in India the people have lost the spirit of adventure, so he is trying to bring it back. He takes youngsters from the age of 12 and introduces them to mountain climbing, kayaks, you know, all this rapid shooting in a little way, graded way. And once I heard him giving advice to some youngsters. He said, it was small cliff they had to climb. It's ridiculous. It was not a mountain or anything, probably 30 meters. But it was sheer and there is no possible way you could climb it. As far as we could see. And he was telling these children with a photograph to illustrate, blowing it up and saying, "Look, these are the marks left by the guides. Now you must know that the way is rarely straight up. When we look for the way, we look straight up. Oh, there is no when we look for the way, we look straight up. Oh no, there is no way. But sometimes you have to crawl sideways, maybe go down a few meters and then climb up another side. So it is difficult to know that in climbing you may have to come down sometimes, unless you know the mountain and you have done it before." So one of these youngsters was asking him, what is the best thing we should do? He said, close your eyes and pray. Then open your eyes and follow the guide. Where he puts his foot, you put your foot next. Where he puts his finger, you put yours next. Don't look up, don't look down, just keep moving. Looking up, well, sometimes we do, it's not so dangerous. But if you look down, how far have I climbed, you see? Then you might be measuring it yourself, and generally, these mountain guides are not very well educated, not rich, not social figures. These are poor people of the mountains. The only thing they know is how to climb the mountain. Now similarly, what you need when you want to climb the spiritual mountain is a great deal of courage that you must reach the top, even if you are going to die in the process. Those who are not willing to die in the process will hardly ever make it. But it is a strange thing that one who is willing to die rarely dies, and one who wants to avoid death is risking death every second. So we must be prepared. Well, there is no toe hold, there is no finger hold, except that fellow going up in front of me, and he looks so skinny, and he doesn't seem to have bathed for 3 days, and he speaks some sort of a patois which I don't understand. Well, just follow him. He is not giving you instruction. He says, I have tied you to myself. Follow. So inevitably, on a path where the goals are set so high, even in ordinary life, when a thing is worth achieving, it takes a great deal of trouble to achieve it. Easily achieved things are not very agreeable or worthwhile. So the whole of life's training, in fact, I would say the education should be not to teach us how to do things, but how to persevere in doing things. When you feel like stopping, how to go on. When you feel like dropping dead, how to get that last bit of oxygen into your lungs and keep moving. Because at a certain point, there can be no going back. You can only go up. I remember once I had to go for individual satsang in the days I was not yet preceptor, and Madras was in floods. Can you imagine that outside my house we had a nearly meter and half of water, and almost the water was coming into our rooms. I had Wednesday evening for my individual satsang. The whole town had been dark for 3 days. There was no electricity. There were no buses, and my sitting was in the evening at 6:30. It was dark, forbidding, cloudy, threatening to rain. But my wife has always tried to keep me on the path. She said, Don't be silly, you go. The preceptor will be waiting for you. I said, 2 things I am terribly scared of. Being electrocuted while in the water, because sometimes these overhead wires, they get snapped, and we have 2 neighboring children who were killed once like that. They come in the night from seeing a movie or after having studied together, and one electrical wire had snapped and it was hanging in the pond, a little puddle of water. These boys didn't see it. He put his foot in it and he was instantly killed, just at the door of his own house. The other thing I am always very scared of is snakes, especially in the water. Now I had to go through nearly 1.5 meters of water most of the way to my preceptor's house. I had no car. If I had car, it wouldn't work under that condition. So when my wife said, Come on, be brave, I had to at least try, So I put on a brave smile, started praying like hell, and started walking. Now the funny thing is, normally from my house the main road is a little up. The water should be less and less as I go. But it was increasing because from the other sources the water was flowing into the main road, and then somehow I managed, wading and looking for wires, looking for snakes, ripples in the water. But somehow I reached very near my preceptor's house. There the water was almost this level, indicating with his hand, because there was a big canal next to his house which was overflowing, and then from this level I had to get into his garden where the level is about, I think, 50 centimeters below, and there I came up to this level of water. I had to walk like that for about 5 meters, and then I came into his house. He must have thought a ghost has come because I was soaking. Everything was wrong, He looked at me and said, You have come for meditation? I said yes. I was only one there. Now all through the sitting I am ashamed to say I didn't meditate at all. I was wondering how I am going back. Naturally, because it was 6:30 when the sitting started in the evening, and he gave me a full 50-minute sitting. I had 50 minutes to think over the problem. How am I going back? And it's getting darker and darker. In India, at one moment it is light, suddenly it is totally dark. Anyway, it was only praying to my master that if I am to be finished, let me be finished quickly, without struggle, without suffering. But miracle, when I finished the sitting and came out of his house and onto the main road, one bus came. I don't know from where and why. There was nobody in it. I put up my hand and fellow stopped and dropped me in front of my house. Now, if that is not a miracle, I don't know what it is. People will say, oh, but Chari, a bus on the streets of Madras, how can it be possibly a miracle? For me, it was a miracle because there was no passenger, there was no traffic. For 3 days there had been no electricity, nobody on the streets. I mean, nobody in his senses would run a bus on that day, because any moment the water could flood the engine and it would stop. But you see, that is the grace of the Master, that if you are willing to say, yes, I am with you, though the way physically becomes harder and harder, spiritually it becomes easier and easier. And then we find this miraculous transformation that was looked like a mountain full of grudges and vertical precipices, and sometimes underhangs, and you will have to go this way. Miraculously, it all seems to have become a plain road. For others, it still looks like a mountain, full of dangers. Every foot of it is a danger, you see. But for you, you are just laughing and joking and chatting with the Master, and that old man, with his dhoti, he is walking gaily, as if there is nothing there. It is, down the strange ways here, and we are going with him, chatting and walking. People behind are thinking, what is this? They are going so easily up this mountain. What is this miracle? And somebody shouts, hello, and you say, yes. How do you climb that mountain? We say, it's very easy. There is no mountain to climb. It appears to you like a mountain from there. Come here and see the miracle that it is still a mountain, but it is no longer a mountain. So that is the guidance of the Master, you see, that he transforms an increasingly difficult path into an increasingly easier path. So that at the most difficult stretches, it is as if we are just floating on air and going through that piece. So why I say this, we should not worry that the path seems to be difficult, because not only is the Master in Sahaj Marg a guide, he is not only a mountain guide, tying himself to you and risking his life for your sake, and pulling you sometimes, pushing you sometimes, cursing you sometimes. He is the Master who changes the way itself into something easy, so that it is the sort of guidance and help that we get in Sahaj Marg. So if at any time you feel that you have a weak heart and, oh, how am I going to make it? Just relax and tell the old man, Babuji, I have a weak heart. He says, oh, is it so? But the next stretch is very easy. It actually goes down and you don't have to walk. You just hold my hands. I will take you there. And miraculously it happens like that. You see, that for everybody else the road is going up like this, and for you it is actually going down, and the Master and you are smiling hand in hand, joking, laughing, and you have gone over the most difficult stretch of road on earth as if you did it in a dream, you see. So this is the nature of spiritual guidance that we get. Don't be upset if you think the road is difficult. Of course it is difficult. It's very difficult. As Gabi said, she has discovered it's very, very difficult. Don't be frightened. That as we go on, it seems to be getting more and more difficult. It is appearing to get more and more difficult as we go on, because our vision is still on ourselves. How will I do it? Will I be able to walk? Will I be able to climb this mountain? I have never climbed a mountain before. I am a plainsman from South India, you see. If I have to climb stairs, I gasp. And here I have to climb, I don't know, 9,000 meters. When you think of yourself and your ability and your capacity to do things, they don't exist at all. But if, like a child holding its mother's hand, you just dance along with your mother, the way does become such that you can dance along it. So I would say that Sahaj Marg is not only an easy way or a natural way, it is the way of the dancer, provided you have the guts to dance on the highest ridges of stone and ice, treating it as if it is a plane. And then when you treat it as if it is a plane, it becomes a plane. I have been asked our Abhyasis one question. We are always wondering at people who walk across, say, a chasm, 100 meters on a plank, maybe 15 centimeters wide. I don't know what is wonderful about it, except that we are conscious that it is a plank 15 centimeters wide. Because when you walk even on the road, that is all the space you see. Now, why cannot you walk there on that plank? Because you say on either side of the plank there is nothing. So what? It is like a motorist who needs maybe 2 meters or 2.5 meters of a road for his vehicle, wanting a 40-meter road. No, I want to be careful, you see. That is why we are afraid when we get into narrow roads. On one side there is a precipice and on the other side there is another precipice going 2000 meters down and we are nervous. But that was the stretch of road which we always used. Now we are frightened because we are allowing one eye to look here, one eye to look here, and we are frightened. We are almost driven crazy, and you are in a place on the road where you cannot even open the door and get out, because if you open the door and get out, you will fall straight 2000 meters. Now this is a matter of psychology, you see. Oh, but Chari, how can I manage on this stretch of road? Well, drive as if there are roads on both sides of you, you see. It doesn't take much imagination to do it. If you can imagine disaster, why don't you imagine success? So if you are conscious that when you walk on the road, this space only is all that you use, you should not be frightened there too. And if somebody says, how do you manage it, my dear friend? You say, well, have you ever seen when you walk how much width of area you need? I have that. What more do I need? No, but you are up in the sky. So what? Up in the sky or down below, the road is the road. It's enough for me. So you see, we allow our eyes to wander, our senses to interfere with the assessment of the situation, that it is dangerous, that it is difficult. Then we look at the master. Oh, can this person take me there? He looks so frail, so weak, so uneducated, so poor, so Indian, you see. Is it possible? He can only smile and say, well, I am telling you, it is possible. Thank you. Here we conclude the series of lectures given in Denmark. In the next narration, we will commence with the lectures given in USA. We'll start next time with the lecture title Read and Enjoy. Thank you for listening.